You ask, I deliver. Mock draft number 3, let's go. As you can see on the screen next to me, you'll be able to see what the teams have done as we go. Later this week, there will be 1-minute YouTube short videos on each team, more breaking down the individual fits, the draft classes, all of those things. This won't be rapid fire, but it'll be quick analysis on each pick. Houston Texans currently have the number 1 pick. Davis Mills has been an absolute disaster. He is not a quarterback in this league. I mean, I think he's a good backup, but with the number 1 pick, you have the opportunity to take the best quarterback in the class, and it's Bryce Young. I wish he was a little bigger, and obviously he's not. But if he was 6'2", 215, this would be a no-doubter. You watch him on film, it's very obvious that he's the best quarterback in the class. I don't think there's a huge difference, but for Houston, you get your quarterback of the future. You're going to have to put weapons around him, but you have 3 more picks in this mock, and I promise you there will be weapons coming. Carolina Panthers. We are an affiliate of the Carolina Panthers. This is a team that I know quite well, and I will tell you, if you don't watch our ESPN radio show, you should click that subscribe button. You'll be able to see every time we go live, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every weekday. Carolina desperately needs a quarterback. They've needed one for a long time. Cam Newton's the only franchise quarterback you've ever had. I fully believe Ken Dorsey is the next head coach of the Panthers, and he's had great success with a player that the guy I'm about to select reminds me of. Kentucky quarterback Will Levis. Will's a big, thick kid, and I do think he projects to be a Josh Allen type in the NFL. He's got a huge arm. A little bit of injury issues. That's to be expected. He plays in a very pro-centric offense at Kentucky. The weapons are not there right now, so the stats don't come through. But every person I talk to in the NFL believes Will Levis is a high-level NFL prospect. At number 3, a team that I didn't think would be here, but here we are, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Derek Carr is still the quarterback of the future. You're obviously very committed to him. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback here. So you take either the best player available or the best fit for you. Now, I do feel like Will Anderson is the best player on the board, but you've already got Chandler Jones. You've already got Max Crosby. So and now you're really getting hat on a hat. I think they take the best offensive lineman in the class, and his name is Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. I have a very similar evaluation to him to a former Northwestern alum, Rashawn Slater, that plays for the LA Chargers. I did not think he was a left tackle. Skoronski is better suited to do that in any scheme. I think he's an immediate plug-and-play at left tackle. Worst-case scenario, he would be one of the best guards in the NFL, and that would fill one of those 5 spots for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they got one last year with Dylan Parham. The line's just not good, and that's one of the problems currently happening with the Raiders is you don't have enough time, so it's hard to get the ball to Devontae Adams when Derek Carr's on his back. Number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think this team's going to pick this high, and they fall into the same problem that the Raiders have. The only difference is they're never this high, and they're not going to be this high again. So I have them taking Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson. Him and TJ Watt together would be the most terrifying duo in NFL history, and I just don't think you can pass it up. This gives you a little bit more leverage with Kenny Pickett because now you know the defense is going to be fantastic. This team was very obviously different without TJ Watt. It gives you a little bit more leeway. I'd love to have an offensive lineman here. There's not really one that I grade this high. Olaf Fashanu would be a reach at this point. I think Paris Johnson would be a little bit of a reach at this point. Pittsburgh would probably ideally like to trade back, but in this mock, no trades. Number 5, the Detroit Lions. You have to go quarterback here. I don't think it's their biggest need. I think they could survive with Jared Goff. your biggest problem is on defense, but I don't think you can throw more capital in the top 5 at the defense with the needs you still have at quarterback, which is why I have them taking Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. I love C.J. I'm not sure he has the ceiling that the other 2 quarterbacks that have already gone have, but I do think there is a very marked drop-off after the 3rd quarterback when you start getting into the Hendon Hookers and K.J. Jefferson, Jaron Hall. There are a lot of quarterbacks, and beauty's going to be very much in the eye of the beholder. It's just a question of which one do you believe in. At number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the greatest luxury pick you will ever see in your life. You got Jordan Davis last year. You've already got Fletcher Cox, which is why I will not be taking Jalen Carter here. I do believe, though, you add a high-end edge rusher, a guy that can play. He's very scheme versatile. He can play a lot of places on the defensive line. I'm going Clemson edge Myles Murphy. Is that the biggest need for the Eagles? No. They don't have a lot of big needs. I think you've already got the weapons. You're pretty heavily invested at wide receiver. I don't necessarily think you would take a 3rd one. You have extra capital. You're going to address that later. This is a very deep receiver draft. So at number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles go Myles Murphy. This is the first one that's been really, really hard. Just solely because now a lot of the prospects they're not the same guy, but they're very similar in evaluation. I can't take a running back at 7. I just can't do it. I considered Bijan Robinson. I don't think it would be a huge reach here, but if I'm the Cardinals, I would more target that 37th pick, which you will see later in this here mock draft, for that running back. So at number 7, I'm taking the best player on the board, and it's Jalen Carter, interior lineman from Georgia. He may end up being the best defensive player on that 2021 national title defense. Very, very good player, scheme versatile. I think he fits nicely in Arizona. This is also kind of a hard projection because I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be there. I already like the weapons. You're locked into Kyler. Not really feeling taking an offensive lineman this high. So you go with Jalen Carter. Number 8, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a place that they could go. The world is your oyster because you have young players at damn near every position. So you can do virtually anything you want to do. And I'm not going to lie. I think what I'm getting ready to do is a bit of a reach. But what is a quarterback's best friend? The dependable tight end. I get that you're doing this with Evan Ingram. He's not a dependable, no doubt, safety blanket for Trevor Lawrence. So at number 8, Michael Mayer, tight end out of Notre Dame. Some people will say, oh, that's too high for a tight end. And it might be. That's probably a little high. I think very highly of this kid. I think he is going to be in that George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews range down the line. It might take a year. It usually does with tight ends. But that gives Trevor Lawrence the piece that I think he's missing. You add that with Calvin Ridley. Now that offense is dynamic. It takes a little bit of the impetus off of that young defense so the defense can develop. And to me, that's the best thing you can do at number 8 because I already like your receivers with Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley. Number 9, the Chicago Bears. I don't love Justin Fields. I haven't, and I'm not going to. But now you have Chase Claypool, who you invested a second-round pick in. You have Darnell Mooney that I think can play out of the slot. But I can't resist the urge to add another piece. I still think this is too high for an offensive lineman. There are a lot of guys that would fall in around 57, 72 picks that the Bears have right here. There's one clear, no doubt, dog in this draft class, and his name is Quentin Johnston, wide receiver out of TCU. If you watch TCU play, it's very obvious that this kid's going to be really good in the NFL. I've heard comps all the way up to Julio Jones. So this is an immediate day one, number 1 starter that allows Claypool to be the 2, Darnell Mooney to be the 3. Now you have the weapons around Justin Fields. You address that offensive line. You can't address every need this team has in one draft. And, well, you've won a couple games here. So that pushes you down, and you don't get the high-level Will Anderson type of impact player. I do, however, really like Quentin Johnston. I think he would be a day 1 starter. Number 10, the Green Bay Packers. I did not see this coming. And frankly, I don't think this team is as bad as they have shown. but you got to have a weapon. And looking at it, I know this kid's had injury issues this year. It's pushed him down the board a little bit. He's been passed as the number one receiver, but he does fit right here, and I think he would be an immediate upgrade. Allow Romeo Doubs to come down as the 3, Alan Lazard as the 2, and your number 1, Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver, Ohio State. I know the injury, if it wasn't for the injuries and it was just the tape, the only thing you could say is that he has always been surrounded by high-level weapons. However, you watch him run routes, little thin for my taste, but I do think he can be an aggressive, good at the catch, number 1 receiver in the NFL. That takes us through the top 10. On your screen, you will see a breakdown of the top 10. Those are the 10 picks that we've gone through. And now we're on to number 11 with the Seattle Seahawks. You're going to call me a homer because he's going ahead of a lot of players at this position, but he has screamed up boards this year. Number 11 out of my Florida State University, Jared Verse. The NFL missed on Jermaine Johnson last year. He hasn't played a ton of snaps. There's been some injury issues with the Jets. Jared Verse is a better player. He's a better motor, athleticism, all of those things, edge rusher. Been a tremendous impact player at Florida State, and that's a luxury pick for Seattle. You could go offensive line here, but I feel like you would be pushing any of them into guard because Abram Lucas and Charles Cross are your tackles for the future. Considered some secondary players here. I'm not sure there's a huge difference from the high side to where you go from there. And I do feel that Jared Verse is an immediate day one impact as a pass rusher. Nice luxury pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Back to the Detroit Lions at number 12. Obviously already took C.J. Stroud. And at number 12, I consider a lot of players here. But there is one that sticks out to me as being a Dan Campbell type of player. Dan Campbell likes dogs. And there's a very good player in this draft. He has a very famous name, and his name is Joey Porter Jr. I'm sure a lot of Lions fans are going to say, but another corner? Yes, because yours are not great. And this is a guy that I think could come in and play right away. Good tackler, willing in the run game. All of the things that you have not necessarily seen from Jeff Okudah, this would push him to the 2, and he's just a very Dan Campbell type of player. He's also my number 1 corner in the class, Joey Porter Jr. Number 13 with the Houston Texans, you already took Bryce Young. There's only one high-level receiver left on the board that doesn't have some issues, but we'll talk about him coming up later. It's Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. High-level route runner. Look, I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to be back, but I didn't think Brandon Cooks was going to be back last year. You need a guy. I think Addison plays predominantly in the slot, not nearly as big as I would like him to be, but he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. And that's what Houston needs. You need dynamic playmakers. I think along the line you have spent some capital. You have some players. This gives your new quarterback exactly what you need, which is a safety blanket receiver, number 13, Jordan Addison. This is where it gets fun. The Indianapolis Colts do not have a quarterback. There is not really a quarterback here that I feel is worthy of this pick. We've seen this before. That does not preclude teams from taking guys. And the last week notwithstanding, I'm going Hendon Hooker. I'm sure a lot of people are going to think this is too high. Indianapolis has to have a quarterback. And whoever they bring in to be the next head coach, whether it's Jeff Saturday, somebody from outside the organization, whatever the case may be, you're going to have a quarterback, and you're going to have to add some weapons. Alec Pierce is a decent 3. I don't think he's anything better than that. I really like Michael Pittman. This is not an ideal scenario, but Hendon Hooker is a guy that can hurt you with his legs. I think you can implement an offense much like Philadelphia did with Jalen Hurts, and that allows you to at least move the ball. This offense is dreadfully bad. 14 to the Indianapolis Colts, Hendon Hooker. A team that makes just no sense to me. I don't understand how Atlanta is winning games. I don't understand how they're here. None of it makes immaculate sense to me. But I will tell you from what I have seen, it is very obvious that this team wants to run the damn ball. So at 15, you take the best running back in the class, Bijan Robinson. I don't love taking running backs in the top 15, but if you're going to have Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, you're not high enough to draft a quarterback. So what do? You put weapons around him. You already have Drake London. You already have Kyle Pitts. The line has played well. You could add a defensive player here, but I think you give the Breece Hall effect with Zach Wilson. You have a lesser quarterback, so give him a high-level running back. That will help you produce points and would be a high-value pick for the Atlanta Falcons. Number 16, the Washington Commanders. You would love this to be a quarterback. You would love this to be a quarterback. It can't be. There's not one here that makes any form of sense. That's not doing the same thing you've done time and time again, which is just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. So I can't do that. Now you go into biggest need. Is there a player that has fallen too far? And I'm not going to say he's fallen too far. He's 19 years old, and that part does scare me just a little bit. His name is Olu Fashanu. It's an offensive tackle that if you put on the Ohio State tape, you will see why he is skyrocketing up boards. I think he'd played 40 snaps before this year. He has been a high-level, no doubt, dog for Penn State. And the more you do this, I do think Sam Howell is going to be the future franchise quarterback of the Washington Commanders. Taylor Heineke has done enough. It's obviously not Carson Wentz. So get a line, protect whoever is going to be back there. You've got good weapons. I feel like the defense is coming along. Add an Olu Fashanu. This is a little bit of a project piece because he's coming in as one of the youngest players in NFL history. I actually didn't have him in the original version of this mock draft because I wasn't sure he came out. Now I'm almost damn sure he comes out. Number 17, the New England Patriots. I can't tell you this is the biggest need, but I can tell you this is a player that should not be here. And Bill loves to do that. Usually it's in later rounds. He loves reaching in the first round, but I'm not sure he can bypass. At number 17, Brian Breeze. This team has struggled at times against the run, and I feel like him and Barmore together on that three-man front, I think Breeze can be scheme versatile, be a 3-4 end. He's very talented, missed some time with the passing of his sister, had some injury issues this year. He's still a great player. And I feel like I'm seeing him in the back end of the first round, sometimes in the second round of mock drafts. All right, now you've just gone too far. That doesn't make any sense. It's not going to break that way. As we get into the process, he will wind up in about this range. Number 17, Brian Breeze to the New England Patriots. If you've watched my mock drafts in the past, you probably know what I'm getting ready to give the Cincinnati Bengals because Jonah Williams is a guard. Here at number 17, there is a very good prospect. And honestly, I don't usually comment on this. One of the best guys I've ever evaluated is Paris Johnson Jr. Kid's 21 years old and has his own charitable foundation that does high-level things for people in need. I love this kid. And I think he probably doesn't have the highest upside, but I think he has a very safe floor. And a lot of people always say with Ohio State linemen, well, you got a quarterback that gets the ball out quick, can use his feet, that kind of shit. None of that matters. The technique is good. He has been good. I originally thought he was going to have to play right tackle in the league. I do now think he can hold up on the left side, would be a quality pick here for the Cincinnati Bengals, and allow you to move Jonah Williams to where he belongs, which is guard. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady's done, and you can chase a quarterback here. You've already done that with Kyle Trask. Take your lumps for a year and blow dead bears, which is what you need to do to get a high-level quarterback in next year's class. What do you do here? You add a player that is I can't tell you immediately he's going to be great. The tape hasn't been particularly great this year. But I think if you give him time and develop him, high-level player, and would add something to that defense. At number 19, Kelly Ringo, cornerback out of Georgia. I think there's a lot of high-level talent there. You're just not seeing it. And now that you lost some pieces in the secondary last year, the onus is tremendously on him. Had a good game against Tennessee. I do like a lot of the things I've seen. I just don't think he's a top 10 pick. Going into this year, he was the no-doubt number one corner. I do not feel that way anymore, but I think he would be a nice fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Denver Broncos here at number 20. I'm higher on this kid than I'm not going to say everybody. I'm not huge into drafting off-ball linebackers. It's just not something I tend to make a tremendous habit of. But I feel like if you're going youth movement, and the move on Bradley Chubb screams to me that you are. You're going to play Nick Menino. You're going to play the other kid whose name just went completely out of Baron Browning. You need the signal caller, the leader of the defense. And I feel like this kid's the best off-ball linebacker in this draft. There will be other names that we will talk about as we go on here. But at number 20 to the Denver Broncos, it's Trenton Simpson, linebacker out of Clemson. I am seeing him push down the board, and that just makes absolutely no sense to me. You watch him on film, and it's very obvious how good this player is. Does he play the most valuable position? No. But I also can tell you he's going to be a starter in this league for 10 years. I have almost no doubt about that. He's one of the safest players in this class to me. At number 20 to the Denver Broncos, Trenton Simpson. On your screen, you will see the last 10 picks. Little rundown of the players that have been selected, and we roll on. On to number 21 with the Go Chargers Go! This team has absolutely been god-awful against the run. And look, I know you spent money last year. You added players. I get all of that, but there is a player sitting here that I think would be a high-level run stopper immediately and has the ability to grow into being a great pass rusher too. At number 21, Gervon Dexter, defensive tackle from Florida. Big kid, really pops on tape on a defense that's not very good. I do think he will go in the back end of the first round. There are a lot of names that you see looking for a nose tackle. This is the one that I know what you're getting, and it's a two-way defensive tackle that is really good against the run and has the potential to grow into more than that. The Tennessee Titans here at number 22. This team is I want it to be a quarterback because I know Malik Willis is not your guy. I know definitively he's not your guy. I told you that when you drafted him. I think you've seen it as time has gone on. But at 22, there's just not a guy here. I mean, there are developmental players that you could try to bring along, but I'm not sure you're not better off just rolling with what you have with Malik Willis because he does have raw talent and try to build a system around him much in the way that you're seeing the Bears do with Justin Fields. So at number 22, Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver LSU. I know things haven't gone exactly for him how you want them to, but pushing him into the second round doesn't make sense. He's the third best receiver in this class. I have him at 4. He's top 5 regardless of who you are or how bad you bang on him for the Florida State game and some off weeks. He's still very talented. I think him and Treylon Burks, that's your receiving core of the future. Robert Woods is as a third piece that's really good as a run blocker, as a wide receiver. And I think now you have the pieces. I'd love to give you a tight end. There's just not one really here. I told you last year you need to get a tight end, and Chikakonkwo to me is probably not that guy. He's a 2. But here with Kayshon Boutte, you add a playmaker that can carry you no matter who the quarterback is. Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis. Number 23, the Seattle Seahawks. Got Jared Verse at 11, and there's another player that shouldn't be here. I understand he's not stereotypical Seattle Seahawk kind of player in terms of body type, but he shouldn't be here. At number 23, Cam Smith, corner out of South Carolina. He is shorter than Seattle likes at corner, but he has very long arms. And the more you watch him, especially in a defense that, let's be honest, is not real good, it's obvious that teams avoid him. He's very, very good. And I think there's even room to grow. He comes to Seattle as the 2 behind Tariq Woolen, and now you have a secondary with Jamal Adams coming back next year, that this defense could be dirty in a hurry. Number 24, the Baltimore Ravens, who I feel very sure are quite pissed that Kayshon Boutte went a couple spots ahead of them. So you have to take a player that I've already seen you develop a guy like this. At number 24, Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee. This is a deep ball threat. Look, he came out of nowhere. There were people that had him in the top 15 a couple weeks ago. Didn't do much against Georgia, but it wasn't because he didn't get open. Hendon Hooker missed him on a deep ball that would have completely changed that game. He's just always open. He's fast as hell, and I think he's a no-doubt first-round pick. Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee. My Jets, Jets. Here at number 25, I can't believe I'm saying this. This team doesn't need a lot. You really hit on the corners with DJ Reed, Ahmad Sauce Gardner. You crushed the draft last year. But there's one thing that I keep coming back to, just going, you've done this. You've done it, and it hasn't necessarily worked out. It's the offensive line. Now, what do you do to mitigate that? Mekhi Becton, at this point, is a spent cost. You can't trust him to be healthy, and so you're going to need that stalwart left tackle. So at number 25, Jalen Duncan out of Maryland. You watch the film on this kid, he's just a big dancing bear. And I think in the zone, he could be a tremendous tackle. Him and George Fant on each side. Elijah Vera Tucker, who, I'm not sure he's not a tackle moving forward. Now you're getting somewhere. Now you'll give the time to Zach Wilson. He won't be harassed as much, and you can use all of those weapons that you have. Number 25 to the New York Jets, Jalen Duncan. 26, how about them Dallas Cowboys? I still don't think this team's very good. And I'm going to continue to say that until they prove me right this week against the Green Bay Packers. God, I hope I'm right about that because I am doubling down to the highest extreme. Number 26, the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like you need a piece on that defense. I would love to give you a receiver, but, well, the last one I had a first-round grade on just went. So, not really going to be there. I do think this team's aggressively on Odell Beckham Jr. It's just, so what do you add? And to me, it's a piece. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't still be here. He's in your state. Number 26, Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. He can play anywhere. He is a gigantic human. He is a huge impact player. It's very obvious anytime you watch this team. He's a dog. And I feel like there are a couple guys that play in the state of Texas that I feel like Jerry Jones and the brain trust of the Cowboys will look at and go, he would look good with a star on his helmet. Here, I'm going Tyree Wilson. Number 27, the New York Football Giants. I'm going to reach here. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to because you have to have a weapon of some kind. I think you've shoehorned yourself into bringing back Daniel Jones. So at number 27, Cedric Tillman, wide receiver out of Tennessee. I do not have a first-round grade on him, but then again, I never have 32 first-round grades, and this year's no different. So you have to shoehorn a player that we didn't see for a couple weeks. That's what allowed Jalen Hyatt to have his blow-up moment. I still think he can be a very good receiver in this league. You pair him with Wan'Dale Robinson and whoever the other is, whether it's Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, who this brain trust seemed to believe in, whatever the case may be. Now you have the weapons. I like the offensive line. I think you did a lot of good things on the defense. Here you add a weapon with Cedric Tillman. On to number 28 with the Kansas City Chiefs. This is not a team that needs a lot. I like the offensive line. Obviously, I like everything about the offense, if I'm being really honest. And you have just a lot of pieces. The question is, do you believe you have a running back? Or do you want to add another dynamic piece to that offense? I think you do. I actually think this kid is way closer to Bijan Robinson than a lot of other people do. Number 28 to the Kansas City Chiefs, Jahmyr Gibbs. The Carolina Panthers would be very pissed if this happened because that's a player I've had going to them since they traded Christian McCaffrey. Great all-around running back. Would be a dynamic piece in Kansas City. I thought about defensive players here because you do obviously have a need there. I can't bypass this kid. And that's weird for me to say because I hate taking running backs in the first round, but he would be a weapon for the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 29, the Minnesota Vikings. This team is way better than anybody could possibly have ever thought. No matter how skulled up you are, you did not think this team was this good. You're picking here at the back end of the first round. This is a great time to take a luxury pick And there are a few out there. But there's one that I can't stop with. I'm not as high on this kid as as a lot of other people are. But he is, I think, he has a good future in the league. I just don't know that he'll ever be a star. At number 29, Isaiah Foskey, edge out of Notre Dame. It's a luxury pick. Minnesota has very few needs. I considered Brian Branch here, and you'll see his name in very short order. I just couldn't get away from adding another edge to this team. Zadarius Smith's an older guy anyway, and I think in that defense he would be a nice fit. Number 30, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. It's hard for me to do what I'm about to do because you invested in corner. You got Tre'Davious White coming back. I feel like your two biggest needs are in the secondary and on the offensive line. There is a player that I could get down with. I just think it's a reach, and I really hate reaching in these things. So this is another versatile piece. Not replacing your safety duo. Both have had some injury issues this year. This kid projects as a safety to me, but can play in the slot. At number 30 to the Buffalo Bills, Antonio Johnson. He's a very modern kind of player where you see he has the ability to do a lot of different things. He's very long, and I like him moving Kyer Elam into more of a role where he can be that bulldog against the run, nickel corner, come up and help, and not necessarily have to depend on him to deal with these guys in the slot because that's just not what he does. I saw it against the Jets, and this is you get two players with one, and he shouldn't be here. Number 30, Antonio Johnson. Number 31, the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock. You got Myles Murphy at number 6, which is an A+ grade according to the lovely mock draft simulator here, NFL mock draft database. Thank you for your software that makes this a hell of a lot easier for me. So the question then is, what else does this team need? I love the offensive line. I love basically everything on the offense. I think it's built perfectly to Jalen Hurts. So you go get another toy. There are people in the NFL that have compared this kid to Minkah Fitzpatrick. At number 31, safety out of Alabama, Brian Branch. That is a move piece that you can do a lot of things with. He's very talented. I can't tell you that he's ever going to live up to the Minkah billing, but he's good. He's good, and on that defense, you could do a ton with him. Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama. That's the end of the first round. With the forfeited pick from the Miami Dolphins, on your screen you will see the entire first round breakdown. And now we roll on to round 2 with the Houston Texans. Comment your reactions to this mock draft on your team to possibly be highlighted in the team short videos that will be coming out later this week, where we deep dive a little bit more into what each team did. We're going to go pretty rapid fire here in the second round. The Houston Texans, 2 picks in the second round. First one at 32, just a player that shouldn't be on the board. Nolan Smith, the edge out of Georgia. I feel like he's going to be kind of forgotten. This could be a David Ajabo thing because he was hurt. He's going to miss the rest of the year. He could get pushed down. Very talented player and a benchmark piece for the Houston Texans. The Carolina Panthers, I feel like this team is heartbroken that Jahmyr Gibbs is not here because that would have been an ultimate pick for them as a replacement to Christian McCaffrey, a player that I think this team could have gotten behind. That's not there. With Will Levis being the first-round pick, you need to add things to the offense. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Ike McQuan is a left tackle. And even if he is, the line hasn't been particularly good. So you add a player that I'm a little shocked didn't go in the first round. Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Pittsburgh Steelers took Will Anderson at 4. The defense at this point would be pretty good. Probably a little pissed that you saw just Broderick Jones go right in front of you right there. I feel like I'm not going to say you have to shoehorn an offensive lineman here. I'm not necessarily as high on this guy as everybody else. I've seen him in the first round, but I do feel like he fits the Pittsburgh Steelers. At 34, Anton Harrison, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Detroit Lions got C.J. Stroud, Joey Porter Jr. with their 2 first-round picks on the board here at 35. There are a lot of ways you could go. I cannot help but this is one of those fits that once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I know you took an edge rusher last year. I feel like this guy's very Dan Campbell. At 35, Andre Carter, edge out of Army. Number 36 with the Las Vegas Raiders, you got Peter Skoronski at 3. I'm sure somebody's going to say that was high. I don't really know what else you're supposed to do. You've got to do something to get this offense right. And you need playmakers. At the end of the day, you just the thing about the Raiders is that you need difference-making players. And Peter Skoronski added that. I think he would help the offense. And I'm starting to worry about Darren Waller. I'm looking at this offense going, now this is feeling very Green Bay Packer-y of we got Devontae Adams and we don't really have much else. So I had a player here that I think with Hunter Renfrow, now this is another guy. This guy plays in the slot a lot too, but I think he can play on the outside. Number 36, wide receiver Josh Downs out of North Carolina. Number 37, the Arizona Cardinals. Again, this is one of the hardest teams to do this with because I'm not sure what this coaching staff's going to look like. You got Jalen Carter in the first round, a player that has screamed up draft boards and fills the need for the Arizona Cardinals. At 37, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. Number 38, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got Michael Mayer in the first round. I think he's a high level tight end in this league. Will be, I think, great immediately. And I don't say that very often about tight ends because it's a position that you do have to learn. So now what else do you need? You spin on the defense, but you really don't have that no-doubt slot guy. And there's a high-level slot corner in this draft. At number 38, Clark Phillips, corner out of Utah. Pittsburgh Steelers back on the board with the pick that they got from the Chicago Bears in the Chase Claypool deal. You added Anton Harrison, which I think is a high-level pick for this team. I don't love the player. I love the fit. So now you've got a lot of players on the board. There is one that I really feel like fits this team. At number 39, Siaki Ika, nose tackle out of LSU or out of Baylor, Transfers. Fuck, I hate the transfer portal. Number 40, the Green Bay Packers. A lot of ways you could go here. I cannot in good faith add more pieces to this defense. It's what I want to do because there is a player that I think would fit them nicely, but there's another that I really want to highlight, and I feel like he fits this team nicely. At number 40, Darnell Washington. Some people will say he's not even the best tight end on his college team. You're right, but he's the second best tight end in this draft, and I'm not sure it's all that close. There's another player that you will see before this video is over that a lot of other teams like. I'm not as high on him, but we'll talk about him when we get there. I feel like Darnell Washington is Mercedes Lewis, only 22 years old, and a much better receiver. It's a fit I've loved the entire draft process. At number 40, Darnell Washington to the Green Bay Packers. New Orleans Saints finally get a pick here, and I know Saints fans aren't going to love this. I feel like at some point the raw talent on a kid is just too much. I do think he's going to come out, and he's a project from high holy hell. But at number 41, quarterback Anthony Richardson. I haven't been overly high on him. I'm not going to be overly high on him. But you've got to do something because between Andrew Dalton, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston, you have nothing at quarterback. And you can't continue to do this. You have to take a shot at some point. You have no first-round pick. So you take the shot here on the upside with Anthony Richardson. At 42, the L.A. Rams. This is a team that's not very good. And not having a first-round pick is kind of a bitch. But there's a player that has fallen, and he fits what you need. At number 42, Osiris Torrance, guard out of Florida. I almost have a first-round grade on him. Immediate day one starter for the Rams. 43, the Cleveland Browns, their first selection in this draft. And I can't get away from this. I love this guy so much. I've talked about him ad nauseum. And I think the pairing of him with Amari Cooper, David Bell that you took last year, it's kind of a specialty player, but he's a home run hitter. At number 43, Zay Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College. The Seattle Seahawks back on the board here at number 44. And as I said, we're going rapid fire here in the second round. We will have team shorts coming out later in the week, getting further into the individual teams, about a minute on each team, really deep diving. And we'll be doing these as often as possible between now and the April 2023 NFL Draft. Seattle's already gotten Jared Verse, Cam Smith. At this point, I feel like you almost have to do this because the kid's still on the board. He shouldn't be. Number 44, Noah Sewell, linebacker out of Oregon. Indianapolis Colts here at 45. This team needs a lot, and I would love to shoehorn a receiver here, but there's just not one. They've all gone. You had to take the quarterback in the first round. There's not really a weapon here that I can genuinely look at and say, yeah, that's an improvement. But there is a player that plays a lot of interior line positions. The line has not been good. I think ultimately he lands at center in this league, but can start out at guard. Jared Patterson out of Notre Dame. 46 with the Washington Commanders. They got a high-level young kid in Ola Fashanu early, and they love adding pieces to that defense. And I think this kid is an absolute dog. At 46, Devin Witherspoon, corner out of Illinois. 47 with the Atlanta Falcons, and this is the happiest team in the world because this kid fell right in their friggin' laps. At number 47, B.J. Ojulari, edge out of LSU. The Cincinnati Bengals, they got the offensive tackle that I've been screaming for years, and now you have the ability to just go get another. I'm not going to say he's a mirror image of what you already have, but this is a player that fixes a need that I've said they've had for years. Number 48, Drew Sanders, linebacker, Arkansas. Bill Belichick says a lot of swear words because the player that just went fit what they like a lot, but there is another player that I think fits the New England system and is a player that New England fans would just fall in love with. At 49, Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa. Number 50, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't give you a quarterback in the first round, and I'm sure some people won't love that, and they're not going to love this. I feel like this kid's Davis Mills, only better. And with what Todd Bowles wants to do, you run him against Kyle Trask, see which one wins out. I think he has a much higher upside. Number 50 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tanner McKee, quarterback out of Stanford. The Carolina Panthers back on the clock at number 51, and this is more where you can get into, hey, let's go get a weapon. All right, receiver, I would like to add one, but receiver's just been gutted. There is a player that I like, and I think he will go higher than a lot of other people do. At number 51, Devin Achane, running back out of Texas A&M. 52 to the Tennessee Titans. You got Kayshon Boutte earlier. There are still high-level players on the board, and this is one that I think he's going to go higher than this, but he just keeps getting pushed down every time I do this, and that usually is a sign that you do a lot of things well, but you're probably not actually a first-round talent. Felix Anadike Uzama out of Kansas State. 53, the Los Angeles Chargers. You got Gervon Dexter early. Now it's a question of, are you going to go high side? Where do you go from here? I don't feel like this player should be on the board. And I know this is going to be a bit of a strange selection because you do have Derwin James, but I think the two of them can play at the same time. Number 53, Jordan Battle, safety out of Alabama. Hey, the Miami Dolphins are finally here. Lost your first-round pick, forfeited that because you talked to Tom Brady one time and Sean Payton and got neither one. And then you traded your other first-round pick for Bradley Chubb. A lot of different places that I think you could go here. Go for upside. At the end of the day, when you have sacrificed this many picks and you're picking this late, you have to go for a little bit of upside, but a little bit of security, which is why at number 54, one of my favorite players in the draft, I think he's going to skyrocket, but this is about the highest I can get him right now. Number 54, Brandon Joseph, safety out of Notre Dame. Seattle, who I feel like has been on the board 47-11 times since we started doing this. Gone Jared Verse, gone Cam Smith, gone Noah Sewell. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a risk with a guy that I like. I feel like this is probably the last year in Seattle for Tyler Lockett, and by last year I mean next year. So a player that has skyrocketed up boards. I've seen him as high as the back end of the first round. At number 55, Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver, Ole Miss. The New York Jets at 56. Probably a little sad that the linebacker run has already happened, but there is one more, and I can't tell you he's the greatest scheme fit because he is kind of a little guy, but he shines all over the field. And I didn't mean to make the pun there. At number 56, DeMarvion Overshown, linebacker out of Texas. Chicago back on the clock. At number 57, you got Quentin Johnston in the first round. You've got to do something on that offensive line. I do think Braxton Jones has a high-level future in the NFL, but there's just not a ton of guys on that offensive line that I really believe in. And this was a toss-up because there's two players, one that we'll talk about in a few minutes going to another team, and then there's the safety security of a lineman that I just know can play multiple places. At number 57 out of TCU, Steve Avila. The New York Giants here at 58 got Cedric Tillman, maybe a little bit of a reach. Not going to say it wasn't. There's a player that I think is a nice compliment to Saquon Barkley who you're going to have to just throw the bag at to keep him in town. This is going to be a run-heavy offense. I like a lot of pieces here, but I do think you need to add somebody to take a little bit of the weight off of Saquon Barkley. A lot of places I could go here, but there's one that I think is a perfect complement to Saquon. At number 58, Chase Brown, running back out of Illinois. The Dallas Cowboys. Tyree Wilson was your first-round pick. You saw a running back go off in the with the last pick to the Giants. I fully believe Ezekiel Elliott, you can get out of that deal. I think you need to get out of that deal. Tony Pollard, the starter moving forward, but you need to have another player that can run between the tackles. Two-headed monster. At number 59, Zach Carbonet, running back out of UCLA. That kid has screamed up boards this year. The Kansas City Chiefs, who got Jahmyr Gibbs with their number 28 overall selection. Things have not gone particularly well for the player I'm getting ready to say. But I go back to the tape and go, how far can you fall? At some point, the free fall has to stop, and you have to look at how good, at the talent on the board. At number 60, Eli Ricks out of Alabama. Almost to the end of the second round here. The Detroit Lions back on the board. You've gone C.J. Stroud, Joey Porter, Andre Carter. That is a hell of a draft. That is really how you get the talent in the building to continue the rebuild. At number 61, several players I considered here, but one that just shouldn't be here. He's a do-everything kind of player, and I think he fits the scheme nicely. Number 61, Henry To'o out of Alabama. The Buffalo Bills here at 62. Antonio Johnson in the first round. This is not a need by any stretch of the imagination. But what do the Buffalo Bills do well? Add rotational defensive line pieces. Shouldn't still be here. A player that was on the Chase Claypool last year because I couldn't believe he didn't come out. Will McDonald out of Iowa State. Last pick in this exercise, and this one's going to sound a little strange. It's another luxury pick for Philadelphia because you can just do that. This is the lineman I was talking about a few picks ago. I love this kid, and I think he can be a high-level safety in this center in this league. I know you have Landon Dickerson. That's going pretty well at guard. So at number 63, the last pick of the two-round mock, John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota. And that's a mock draft, boys and girls. 63 picks. They will be up on the Facebook page at The Sportsocracy, on the Instagram, all of the social medias. Comment your reactions here on YouTube. Tell me what you think. What did you like? What did you not like? Call me a big mulleted dipshit. Totally up to you. 2 rounds. This is the 3rd edition. We will be doing a lot of these over the course of the season. And team shorts will be coming out later this week, looking at every team. So comment your reactions. We'll put those on the video. As always, thank you for checking us out. We're live here in the Sportsocracy every weekday at 3 Eastern Standard Time with our ESPN radio show. Click that subscribe button. You'll see every time we go live. Game picks, Beat the Chief, our live fantasy football show every Sunday to help you set your lineup. Thank you for checking us out. I am Jeremy Greene of ESPN Radio Asheville. Mullet out.